requires strength, courage, and grit. And in a little while, you have to stand up and tell Kamala that you've had enough. You can't take it anymore. You're destroying our country. You were a terrible vice president. You destroyed San Francisco.
Ah, yes, and that's not all. There's a lot more than that. They destroy a lot, don't they? Yes, they do. Bam, 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 bam. Well, happy Election Day. A friend in law enforcement just sent me a video from Virginia, the Reston Parkway. And if you were driving on the Reston Parkway, you would see signs. It's Election Day. And a Republican running for Congress in Virginia, Mike Van Meter for Congress, Virginia's 11th district, and a row of signs for Mike Van Meter on the grass island on the Reston Parkway. You might be headed to your polling place. And a Democrat woman got out of her car and is walking along removing the political signs because, she's Hitler. She's a fascist. She's a Nazi. I pretty remarkable stuff. And she's a woman in her 30s. Looks like she might be someone with a job. And you might think that she's normal if she weren't a political vandal who should be in handcuffs. She should be dragged away and thrown maybe a gulag somewhere. What do you think, a gulag? Maybe just Gitmo, send her to Gitmo. She's walking along, removing political signs. And a man that I know, career law enforcement, but just in his own car, driving and said, "Hey, ma'am, you can't remove those signs." She says, "Well, it's Election Day. It's over." It's like, no, it's the morning of Election Day, you dumb beep. Put the signs back. And he actually stopped and instructed her to put the signs back, and then shot her in the leg, as recommended by Joe Biden. Joe Biden says shoot him in the leg, right? So shot him. All right, he didn't really shoot her in the leg, but that's pretty wacky. The Democrats' Election Day, amazing stuff, and the economy under Joe Biden and Kamala Harris going so wonderfully. You may remember that just the other day we got the jobs report. And we were expecting, 110 to 130,000 jobs. And instead they got 12,000 jobs. And at about the same time, they adjusted last month's jobs numbers downward. And while they were at it, they adjusted the jobs numbers from 2 months ago downward. You notice how they never adjust them upward? Like, oh, no, I can't believe we screwed up the math every month for the whole Biden-Harris administration when it comes to jobs. And we had to adjust them downward again and again and again. Nice job with the economy. Isn't that amazing? Yes, it is. Well, happy Election Day. Happy Election Day. A historic race down to the wire is the crooked headline at the pathetic Washington Post, going out of business, losing $77 million last year, as one of our brilliant listeners said a short time ago. The Washington Times headline today. One of your newspapers, it is your newspaper of record in Washington, D.C. We've got good newspapers in Washington, the Washington Times, Washington Examiner, the Free Beacon. We've got, and then, the Washington Post right over there. Historic race down to the wire. And they say, Trump scales back his bravado in final push. Oh, no, not bravado. We'd had to have bravado. Is that kind of like toxic masculinity? You guys keep dressing like your mother and, being Norman Bates at the Bates Motel in Psycho, whatever you want to do. But the Washington Times headline, Trump era to mark new beginning, or end. It's actually the actual headline of the Washington Post because it's a squeaker. It's a squeaker. No matter where you look, the Democrats are working real hard. I didn't even ask you for that Van Jones cut. There's a Van Jones cut on that Van Jones yesterday saying, gosh, we really have to get out the vote in the suburbs of Philadelphia. Otherwise, we'll lose Pennsylvania. And if we lose Pennsylvania, then we lose the whole presidential election. So the Democrats are going to be bussing in people from mental institutions to vote in Philadelphia and the suburbs surrounding Philadelphia because they're in a bit of a panic. But that just means they become more corrupt and more dedicated to getting people to the polling places. And it always boils down to one Democrat city where you don't want to say anybody's corrupt or anything like that. But remarkable stuff. So Trump era to mark a new beginning or end. The headline from side to side, front page, top of the Washington Times. Candidates wrap up historic campaigns with twists and turns. Republican reversal on early voting since 2020 triggers surge. And it's true. Republicans this time around said, listen, if these are the rules as they exist, then we must adapt and overcome, like the United States Marine Corps. And so Republican voters this year have come out in extraordinary numbers, in unexpected numbers, in historic numbers to vote early this time around. And it's apparently, now it's too early to say for certain because today is Election Day and we're still in the morning hours, but it may very well turn out to have been a very, very important shift for the Republican Party and for Republican voters. And I remain hopeful that it will. And honestly, I am very optimistic at this time of day on Election Day, Tuesday, November 5th, 2024. Very optimistic, I've got to say. And how do these dominoes fall today? And can we be confident and comfortable? Well, we can keep that everything will be entirely legitimate. We keep an extra close eye on it. And as I understand that Republicans have done a much better job this year of getting poll watchers out there to keep an eagle eye on things, in particular where you should be looking for the Democrats to stray from, polite American political standards and practices as they would be eager to do in Philadelphia and surrounding environments in Pennsylvania and perhaps in Pittsburgh as well, the Democrat Party hotspots in Pennsylvania. And a lot of them think that Pennsylvania will be the key to it all. And so they're pushing, in particular, the Democrats, but the Republicans, I think, are fighting hard. President Trump was in Pennsylvania yesterday. We've got, where's J.D. Vance this morning? Cincinnati, Ohio. And I've got audio that I want to share with you now because there is, this is a fast-moving train today. And if you have, now I can say that my best girl and I, we have not voted yet. We're going to vote when I leave the radio station. We're going to maybe get lunch, and we're going to vote. We've got a couple of different options, a university and a library in our neighborhood. I was going to say post office, but it's a library. And we're going to go vote in person. I want to get one of those Yo Vote stickers, because they should have them in a lot of different languages, shouldn't they? Like communist languages, because it's the District of Columbia. But let's go to soundbite number one. President Trump was in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania last night because Pennsylvania is very important in play. Wisconsin, very important, very much in play. Michigan, very important, very much in play. Nevada, North Carolina. There are a lot of keys to, and the dominoes, again, because it's a complicated process, the dominoes can fall a lot of different ways, and President Trump has different avenues to victory. But how does he get to 330 electoral college votes? We'll see about all that. Let's go to President Trump last night in Pittsburgh, PA.
Wow, I have some more big news, Megan. I'm just getting this right now. So somebody that's very, very respected asked me to do his show 2 weeks ago, and I said, why not? And to me, it's very big because he's the biggest there is, I guess, in that world by far. Somebody said the biggest beyond anybody in a long time. And his name is Joe Rogan, and he's never done this before.
Joe Rogan, media powerhouse. Man, oh, man. President Trump in Pittsburgh, PA. Then he went to Reading, PA, had another big rally. Then he went to Michigan, and he was still carrying on in Michigan after 1 a.m. 1 a.m. Eastern Time. Michigan is an Eastern Time state, even though it looks like it might be a Midwestern state. It's an Eastern Time state. President Trump and Joe Rogan, whose podcast he did, and it's one of he's got 14 million or something daily followers on his podcast. He's giant and doing a great job. And he spoke to President Trump for 3 hours. He spoke to J.D. Vance, I think, for 4 hours. And Kamala won't do it because it involves being asked a question and then having to answer it. And she's not good at that because her brain is very small and not very capable. Kind of like that squirrel, Peanut. Although poor Peanut. Peanut is dead now. You see, the Democrats killed Peanut the squirrel. Peanut the squirrel was an internet sensation out of upstate New York, saved by a nice couple. Nice couple. Although I think, you see the nice couple. What do you know about that nice couple? They got Peanut the squirrel. Turns out their main thing, I guess, on the internet is, well, I'll get back to that later, is doing porn. They do porn. See, then they saved a squirrel, and they made the squirrel famous, too. But that's another thing. And then the Democrats came and raided their home and killed their pet squirrel named Peanut, who had become an internet sensation in New York. I hope to get into that a little more because I've never heard anything so cruel in all my life. And they killed their pet raccoon, too. They say they killed the squirrel because when 10 guys came in from the state and raided the house and spent 5 hours raiding the house, these nice people, and they took their pet squirrel, who they saved after a squirrel's mom was run over by a car 7 years ago. And they were taking the squirrel away, and they say the squirrel bit one of their 10 agents that raided the house to take the squirrel because somebody complained that they had a pet squirrel in there. So they took the squirrel away, and they said, oh, no, the squirrel bit me. We're going to have to cut its head off and test it for rabies. So they killed the squirrel, and then they killed the pet raccoon, too. They killed them both. But still they haven't gone to get Joe Biden's dog Commander, who's bitten at least 10 Secret Service people. Isn't it 10? And they had 10, a whole lot of Secret Service people. And they haven't raided anybody's home to get Commander the dog, who's bitten all these federal agents, because the Biden family is just that corrupt. All right, but let's get back to the thing. President Trump last night campaigning all over the place.
And it just came over the wires that Joe Rogan just endorsed me. Is that right? Thank you, Joe. That's so nice.
It is so nice.
And he doesn't do that.
He doesn't do that
so.
Normally. Womp, womp, womp.
And he tends to be a little bit more liberal than some of the people in this room. No, I had a lot of fun, and he was amazing. And
he used to support Bernie Sanders. He was a Bernie Sanders guy, Joe Rogan, and now he's supporting Trump. And that's, you might say, a little bit of a change, isn't it? Yes, it is. Womp, womp, womp. I've got a lot of President Trump for you from last night. Kamala had celebrities. She had Orca. She had Orca out there. And Orca said some pretty crazy stuff on stage while supporting Kamala Harris last night. It's the old end of democracy thing. I think Orca has become a Nazi. What do you think? She like Eva Braun? She didn't remind me of Hitler, so she must be Eva Braun. Hitler's best girl. He had a best girl. Then he killed her. You know, they committed suicide together because they're Nazis. What do you expect? Come on. For the love of Mike. Could the fate of America's children be tied to the fate of our nation? Of course it can. Much like, abortionists put an end to the lives of the unborn, the left seems determined to snuff out everything else. And Preborn, the great people at Preborn, well, they stand as a beacon of hope for the most defenseless among us. Preborn babies, unborn children, every day Preborn's network of clinics helps to rescue, on average, more than 200 unborn babies every day while surrounding pregnant mothers, expectant young mothers with love and with God, and offering a free ultrasound. witnessing the miracle of life happening inside their own bodies. Never been more crucial as we navigate through this time of moral decline, you may have noticed. Will you please join Preborn in helping to protect the least among us? For just 28 American dollars, you can sponsor an ultrasound and give a mother the chance to see the life inside of her and choose life, not only for her baby, but for herself. An ultrasound typically doubles a baby's chance of living a long, happy, and prosperous life when mom sees it. To donate securely, all you have to do is dial pound 250 and say the keyword baby. Pound 250 and say the keyword baby. All right? And or you can go online to preborn.com/plant. That's me, preborn.com/plant. Yes, sir. And I've got a lot more President Trump coming up. And what did Orca say? What did Orca say about this election day? Oh, no. You've been warned by Orca. That's coming up. This woman in Virginia on the Reston Parkway was also pulling up the Trump signs, pulling up the signs for Republican House candidate Mike Van Meter and pulling up the Trump signs. And they're all brain damaged. It's amazing. She should be arrested and imprisoned, maybe Gitmo, for probably, longer than Enrique Tarrio, of the Proud Boys, who was sentenced to 22 years in prison for his role in January 6th. January 6th, he was in a hotel room in Baltimore. Wasn't even in Washington, D.C., much less at the Capitol. But the Democrats, because they're fascists, they put him in prison for 22 years, probably because they're racists. He's amazing stuff. And I tell you what, I've got video now of this woman on the Reston Parkway in Virginia, and she is pulling up political signs, and she thinks it's just fine because she's not very bright and she's a Democrat. But I repeat myself, isn't that amazing? And I tell you what, we'll post this video online so that you can see it and share it with your friends, because this is what Democrats, not the brightest bunch in the world, and they're sinister. They have women out there doing this crazy stuff. We should send Doug Emhoff out there to talk to her. What do you think? No, I'm not advocating violence against women. What do you? Just because I suggest Doug Emhoff should go talk to her? Maybe he wants to date her. Maybe he would want to make her the nanny or something like that. I don't know. I can't speak to what he might do. But we'll post this video, too. We've got lots coming up, including your calls. Yeah, if you haven't voted yet, now's the time to vote. Vote for Trump, vote for the United States of America, vote for a strong economy, vote for a strong border, vote for peace in Europe, vote for peace in the Middle East, vote for boys who will grow up to be men, girls who will grow up to be women, vote for science and sanity, vote for decency and common sense. And besides, if you vote for the other guy, you're Hitler, and you're a fascist, and you're a Nazi, and you're destroying America, and you'll never vote again. Sorry, just channeling Oprah. And I'll get to that shortly. But right now, let's go back to the phones, Michael. Let's go to, and I'm going to play for you the audio, the lady tearing up the Trump signs and the Republican member of Congress, Mike Van Meter's signs in Virginia, because the left, there's something wrong with their brains. Let's go to Patrick, calling from Stafford, Virginia. Patrick, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Hello, Chris. How you doing today?
I'm great, Patrick. What do you know?
Doing great. You want to say hi, Mr. Plant?
Hi.
Hi, how are you? You're lucky to have a dad like the dad you have, aren't you?
Yeah, they're enjoying their day off from school. But, the reason I'm calling, I don't want to take up too much time. It's just what's on the line for for this election. Just the past 4 years, everything that we've gone through the lies about the cognitive abilities of the elected officer. We don't know who's in charge. Presumably it'll be the same way with Kamala. Anyone who's on the fence about voting needs to actually not be and get out there and vote. These people have proven that they'll do anything to retain power. Look at what they've done to President Trump, all of the charges that they've put it through. I mean, they what did he get fined? $400 million for a crime there wasn't even a victim. Now he's a convicted felon, but there was no victim. I mean, all the banks were saying, we didn't have a problem with anything that happened. I mean, so what do people want, more of this? You know what I mean?
Oh, I know what you mean. Yeah, the open border.
It's absolute. I don't recognize our country from when we were growing up. To give you another example, I am a regular churchgoer. I'm not sure if you are or not. It's irrelevant, but we have to have security on our church campus now.
Right.
Because the threat is so high, and I look like a Secret Service agent walking around with an earpiece in my ear.
No kidding.
Because I'm part of that. Like we are always on alert. This is a place where you should feel safe. Right. But they keep up with the Trump is Hitler stuff and fascist Nazis, blah 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 blah. What do they expect going to happen? If you decline all of the threat level to President Trump, you decline all of the security that they've requested, and then you wonder how someone can shoot him in the face from that close a range. I'm also a former Marine, so that shot at that distance I could have made with my eyes closed. Uh-huh. It's a miracle he's alive.
Yeah, we were talking about that the other day.
Saw that vantage point.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he had AR-15, and he had we were talking about the other day whether he had a scope or not. Apparently he had a red dot. He didn't have a glass scope, but he did have a red dot. And, again, if President Trump hadn't turned his head to the right to look at the banner he had up, it would have been the Zapruder film Part 2, and President Trump would be having a very different conversation right now because the Democrat who was then thankfully shot and killed by a Secret Service counter sniper. And then there was a second would-be assassin in Florida at President Trump's West Palm Beach golf course in the bushes with a rifle. And he was nabbed. Secret Service scared him out of there. A nice passerby got a picture of his car and his license plate. The guy was arrested. There was another guy in Idaho who was just arrested a few weeks ago who had threatened to kill repeatedly President Trump. He was arrested. Pakistani guy in New York sent by the Iranians who is presumably still in custody unless Kamala bailed him out, as she likes to do with criminals. And honestly, I mean, listen, Patrick, we're talking about an open border with who knows, and this is the truth, who knows how many millions of illegal aliens have flowed in over the last 3.5 years under the Democrats, including masses of Venezuelan gangs who have literally killed more women than I could list with the time that I have remaining on this radio show. And we've got the cartels and the child sex traffickers and record high numbers of child sex trafficking and the drugs and the fentanyl deaths, the other fatal drug overdoses, more than 100,000 a year in the United States. That's a number greater than the Vietnam War, the Korean War, and post-9/11 wars combined, just by the way, and that happens in 1 year. And that's not even in the news, Patrick. It's not, and there's not
That's
being...
Right. And how quickly was this memory hold? I don't even remember this kid's name anymore. You don't see his face, nothing. Like it's just like it never happened. And then go back to the Trump is Hitler stuff. And this, you may have this as well. In my family, there are otherwise sane people, friends and families that I know who do spout the Trump is Hitler, stuff like I'm sorry they missed. I mean, it's very, very, very alarming to me.
It is.
These are, like I said, they're otherwise sane and good people that say stuff like that.
Well, the Democrat Party, by way of their information dominance in the media, in the news media, in the broader media, the entertainment media, on college campuses, they are, as I like to say, because it's true, they're not liberals. They're the left.
No, you're correct. That's the most true statement that you've ever made.
Yeah, and nobody's more bloodthirsty than the left. And nobody's killed more people literally in the history of the world than the left. And they started in 1917 with the Bolshevik Revolution in St. Petersburg. and they kill and they kill by the millions. They killed millions of Ukrainians. Now they're attacking Ukraine again, the Soviets. The Chinese Communist Chairman Mao, they've killed 50 million to 75 million of their own people. Pol Pot in Cambodia start at 3 million killed there. They enslave the ones they don't kill. And the Democrat Party today has moved from liberal to left, and that's a completely different... Go ahead,
like
Patrick.
You say, how do you kill 100 million people? You just start.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you start with the first one. And, ring a bell when every million mark has been reached. Isn't it amazing?
Yeah. I think the reason I called in today, and this is like the main point I wanted to make, is that people really need to wake up. Do you think that Kamala Harris is going to be able to handle Vladimir Putin? No. The Iranians? No. The Chinese? No. I mean, they're waiting. They're literally lurking in the dark, waiting for us to lose today, and we can't let it. Everybody has to get out and go. I'm going to go vote at lunchtime, like you said after your show.
Yep.
But yeah, everything's on the line.
Yeah, everything's on the line. And when do you hear the rhetoric? In fact, maybe I'll get to that now. See, you teed it up, so maybe I'll get to some of the crazy talk from the Democrats. And again, it's the old Russian playbook. Whatever they accuse you of is what they are guilty of. They accuse you sometimes ahead of time of what they're about to do. And this lefty Victoria Nuland, career government official, and she's worked in the government in Republican and Democrat administrations, but she's clearly an America-hating lefty. And her name is Victoria Nuland. She was testifying under oath to Congress a couple of years ago, well, during the Obama administration.
It is classic Russian technique to blame on the other guy what they're planning to do themselves.
And that's what they're doing all over the place, Patrick. And they, you're a Nazi. Well, that must mean that you're becoming a Nazi. You're Hitler. Well, and while you're chanting from the river to the sea, you want Israel wiped off the map. College campuses in America are too terrifying for Jewish students and faculty to go to wearing a yarmulke or a Star of David piece of jewelry, because the left has done this, keeping in mind that Adolf Hitler's party was the Socialist Workers' Party of Germany. But never mind that. Maybe they weren't as far left as the communists because they didn't steal every industry. They let them operate as long as they served the state. And the merger between state and corporate power, which we see all over the place with the Democrats and social media. It's why they're so threatened by Elon Musk taking over Twitter, because they owned all of that before Elon Musk took it away from them. Kind of like Abraham Lincoln took their slaves away from them, the Democrats. Patrick, God bless you, and you're headed out to vote at lunchtime. I think that's great. And you got sounds like multiple kids with you, more than one kid with you, right?
I do have two, and I would also like to point out what they're doing to Trump is exactly what Lavrenti Beria did, who was the hangman for Stalin. Show me the man, and I'll find you the crime. And people are running on that. They say, elect me, and I'll, quote, unquote, get him.
Right. Yeah.
That is Soviet. That
is the Soviet Union. That is the Sovietization of the Democrat Party is more or less complete. And, they were never the brightest people in the world. The Russian Soviets were not necessarily Lenin was a fairly smart guy. Stalin was smart enough to kill millions of people and destroy. But that's about it. He was vicious. He was smart enough to be vicious.
Yeah.
And these guys are not the smartest people in the world either. And it's an amazing thing. Now, I want to play some audio for you, Patrick, because you kind of teed it up for us. And I am saluting you, United States Marine.
Please get Mike the Lib on the line. Whatever you got to do. He's comedy gold.
All right, we talked about it a little earlier. His name came up earlier. And that's great. Yeah, we want Mike the Lib. He's at a polling place somewhere, being Mike the Lib. That's very funny. Get Mike the Lib on the line. Thank you, Patrick. God bless. Enjoy voting, and have a great time. We had, Chris called in earlier from Marshall, I think, and he said, go to your polling place, tailgate, have a party, have a great time, enjoy Election Day in the United States of America. We should return Election Day to Election Day instead of election season as well. But now, let's see. Let's go to, it's just crazy. Where do we want to go? Let's start with Michael Beschloss from the midterm elections. Presidential historian Michael Beschloss, rich kid, and fancy education, all that stuff. Michael Beschloss, presidential historian. He doesn't remember Donald Trump being president, what happened then. He's not much of a presidential historian because his memory is very, very faulty. He can't remember the Trump administration, which ended less than 4 years ago. And here was Michael Beschloss, the midterm elections. Oh, no, if the Republicans take control of Congress, it's going to be real bad.
A historian 50 years from now, if historians are allowed to write in this country, and if there are still free publishing houses and a free press, which I'm not certain of.
Commie.
But if that is true, a historian will say what was at stake tonight and this week was the fact whether we will be a democracy in the future, whether our children will be arrested and conceivably killed. We're on the edge of a brutal authoritarian system, and it could be a week away.
Could be a week away, a brutal authoritarian system. Children will be arrested and potentially killed because the Republicans, you know how they are with kids, they're always killing kids. And then Michael Beschloss went down to the Planned Parenthood and harvested the organs of a dozen unborn black babies. And he flosses with them. I made up the flossing part, I'll admit. Isn't that great? Now, Michael Beschloss, the reason we play that is that he was on the TV again today. MSDNC, Morning Joke, they brought him back because it's Election Day. And he always says crazy, mentally ill, incendiary, Hitler-like things like that. So Michael Beschloss was back on the TV this morning.
If historians in the future are allowed to write books.
What? Same
and by
thing.
the way, that question is open this morning.
It is.
And if people are allowed to go on television and say what they think in the future, which, again, that question is open this morning, in the future, historians are going to look back on this day and say, this is the day that America made a choice between freedom and democracy on one side and authoritarianism and dictatorship.
Now, again, President Trump was president for 4 years. He's already served one term as president. He didn't use the FBI against his political enemies, but Joe Biden and Kamala Harris did. He didn't use the intelligence community, the intelligence leaders like penitentiary face Brennan against his political enemies, but Joe Biden and Kamala Harris did. And they corrupted our 2020 election with an information operation and disinformation campaign that they ran against the American people about Hunter Biden's laptop. That polls show may have changed the outcome of the election. Now, Trump didn't have the FBI conduct pre-dawn raids on the homes of his political enemies, but Joe Biden and Kamala Harris did. Honestly, from the list is long. You know, I mean, James O'Keefe had his home and office pre-dawn raid because someone provided him with the diary that Ashley Biden left behind at a halfway house or someplace and said, hey, look at this. So there's the pre-dawn raid. And then the CNN camera crew on Roger Stone's house for the pre-dawn raid. And then Naval Academy grad George Papadopoulos thrown in jail for BS trumped up. Donald Trump convicted on multiple felony counts. Ask any Democrat on the street that cheers that. And what was he convicted for again? What was that? A non-disclosure agreement or something that the networks all enter into every year? What's going on with that? And Steve Bannon was just let out of jail. And Peter Navarro was thrown into jail. And for what? For saying, well, we've got executive privilege as advisors to the president, so we're immune from congressional subpoena. Now, Hunter Biden, and you can debate that in court, but they threw their political enemies in jail, the fascist Nazi Hitlerites, dressed like ladies. And I just want to throw the dress like ladies part in at the end because it's like their favorite movie is Cabaret. It's Cabaret. But never mind that. And now you got this idiot, and he's a complete idiot, Michael Beschloss, who doesn't remember the 4 years of he's a presidential historian, but not much of a presidential historian. Did Trump do any of that, or was that all Biden and Harris doing that? And Hunter Biden defied the congressional subpoena, and he's fine, and he violated the FARA Act. It's just amazing. And these guys come on TV and say these crazy things on Election Day, just like the corrupt, filthy, criminal intelligence officials. And that whole thing was started by Antony Blinken, who was with the Biden campaign at the time in 2020, hey, will you guys gin up a fake letter and run an information operation against the American people so we can corrupt the U.S. election? I know you do it in beep-hole countries around the world. Can you do it in the United States now? And they did. And Michael Beschloss, I don't know, we're going to have to march him off to the gulag or the gas chambers. You know, when we, the Nazis, the Hitlerites, take over. My father actually killed Nazis in World War II. Very happily. He was pleased. You know, football season is heating up. You may have noticed Monday Night Football last night. You see that. And Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action while you're watching football. With more than 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all of us. The app is incredibly easy to use, simple to use. You pick 2 or more players across any sport. You pick more or you pick less on their projections, and you could win up to 100 times your money. Prize Picks even invented the Flex Play, so you can still cash out if one of your picks doesn't hit. What? That is too great. Download the Prize Picks app today and use the code PLANT. That's me, Plante. Why is there an E? Nobody knows. And you're going to get a $50 credit instantly when you play only $5. So that's the code PLANT on Prize Picks to get a $50 credit instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive your $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks, run your game. Must be present in certain states where it's lawful to wager. Visit prizepicks.com for details and restrictions. Yeah, so we've got more because, so there's, and this is what you get at NBC News. That's the end of democracy. But there's more because Oprah was on a tear last night. Yes, I forgot about Paul Manafort being targeted by the Democrats as well, as they, like the left everywhere, like Lavrenti Beria and Joseph Stalin, they put their political enemies, their political rivals behind bars to stop them, and some they shoot at, like President Trump. The left is here. Today is Election Day. No more early voting. Today is voting day. If you have not voted yet, get out and vote all the way down ticket. Vote for all the Republicans and vote against the stupid propositions, too.